You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe, and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Thanks for checking out this archived episode of the Ticket Stub. Connor here, one of the hosts of the show. I'm doing this while Dick is away. Guys, I know that y'all love the show, but I know that he is the worst part. I'm trying to find another co-host, so if any of y'all have any ideas, please let me know. But in the meantime, go ahead and subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube, all at the Ticket Stub Podcast. You can send us an email at theticketstubpodcast@gmail.com, or you can find us on Facebook at the Ticket Stub. And be sure to listen live every Thursday on irlonestar.com or FM 104.5 and 106.1 in the Conroe area. Thanks and enjoy the show.
Shall we begin?
Hello and welcome everybody to the Ticket Stub. Connor and Dick here. Glad y'all joined us.
I'm just glad you knew how to work the button.
Yeah, last time I had a little technical difficulty. Okay, well, the volume, you have to turn it like way up before it starts actually playing sound. But we're off to a better start this week. We are recording on a short week, but glad to be here. We've got a lot to talk about. We are going to rewind some movies coming up. We are going to give some tickets away to the Grand Theater and announce how you can win some tickets in the coming week. If you didn't check out our episode, I thought we had a really good episode last week, Dick. We had an interview with Ross Bolin.
Yeah. We talked about TV shows.
We talked about Game of Thrones a little bit, by the way.
Did you see this week?
Oh man, yeah.
You know what's really great?
What?
Is I guess HBO was having issues, and so it kept buffering every scene.
Oh really?
So when the show was over, the episode was over, it felt like a 5-minute episode because I didn't really get to watch it in full length, and I was sitting there going like, "What happened? I don't even remember what happened."
See, I didn't get to watch it right live, so I watched it later, and I must have resolved that issue by then because I didn't have to deal with that. But man, things are getting real. If you didn't check out last week's episode with Ross Bolin, requisite spoiler warning for those that love Game of Thrones. I guess we didn't say that last week.
I told you my theory is gonna be right.
Yeah, everyone's a god.
Well, check it out. The episode's up. Subscribe on the podcast to keep up with it. So
yeah,
hopefully we'll get him back.
Yeah, he said he'd come back on, so we're excited to have that. But check us out on Facebook, the Ticket Stub Podcast. We have a Twitter at @the_Ticket Stub. Like us or subscribe to us on all podcast feeds, Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, all that kind of stuff. And on YouTube. I feel like YouTube is the unwatched gym. Dick, we need to start pointing more people to YouTube because, we've got these great videos. You can see our beautiful faces there, and we need to start getting people checking that out as well.
Especially when you don't know what you're doing at the very beginning of a show. It's really great.
If the podcast, we edited the first 30 seconds out of, but if you want to see that bonus content, go to the YouTube and check it out of last week's episode. And it's a lot of me doing sign language to Dick, Anyways, we are glad to be here. Also, we've now got posters hanging at the Grand Theater in the ticket booth.
Perfect.
Yeah, talking about giving 2 tickets away, but man, I feel like we're big time. We got posters hanging in the ticket booth at the Grand,
and you can even read them.
And you can read them, which is even better. So Amanda Smith, shout out to her for making those posters for us. Dick, I'm gonna get more printed, and we're gonna hang them all over town.
We should.
We're gonna paint the town.
We can put them on over here. We can put them over there and put them on over here and
over here. All right, cool. Well, we're gonna hop right in. I read a thing on Screen Rant the other day, Dick. Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, we're going to movie news.
We're going to movie news.
Yeah, let me know what we're doing here.
Sorry, my bad.
I read your itinerary, but do I really care?
Not that much. I understand. Leonardo DiCaprio has announced that he will be starring in a Leonardo da Vinci biopic.
Is it wrong to say Leonardo DiCaprio is just pretentious in itself? Like he himself, like the embodiment of Leonardo DiCaprio I feel like he's pretentious in his movie roles. He needs to lighten up. He needs to do a Disney movie to really show his chops. Like think about Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp was rising in the pretentious area, and then he did Pirates of the Caribbean, and then apparently that worked in some chaotic world of explanation. Now he's beloved by kids.
But don't you think Johnny Depp is like the most pretentious guy in the entire world?
That's what I was saying. Like he was. And then he did Pirates of the Caribbean, and so it dropped down way low. But he's still there. He still wears eyeliner outside
of like scarves and bracelets. I mean, and I feel like I bet he talks in a European accent, even though he's from like Kentucky or whatever.
But see, you forget when it comes down to be pretentious. If you have the moms on your back in a good way, then you really can't be pretentious because the moms like you. If the moms like you, you're good.
So because he did Jack Sparrow and
Moms have to like him
Chocolate
now because
Factory
their
and all
kids
that
love
stuff.
him. Kids love him.
Well, he makes pretty much garbage movies, in my opinion. Johnny Depp does. Leonardo DiCaprio, I feel like maybe he wouldn't be the most fun hang. I don't know.
It's not about hanging. It's just about his movie roles.
They're all so serious. Yeah.
And Catch Me If You Can was really entertaining.
I did love Catch Me If You Can.
But all his other stuff, it's like he sat down and says, people don't take me serious enough in this world. So I'm going to do only serious movies. And I don't really enjoy him. I really don't enjoy him as an actor. Maybe in, what was that? Happy Days? Growing Pains. He's really good in Growing Pains.
I was going to say, do you think it's because he started in Growing Pains?
And then What's Eating Gilbert Grape? Probably his best role he's ever done because he plays a disabled kid. And have you seen that movie?
No, I've never watched that one.
Sadly, the mother just passed away.
I've started it before. So. I've started it a couple times and then got bored and stopped it.
You really, actually, Johnny Depp, the two pretentious come together in that movie, and
that's the Venn diagram of pretentiousness.
Yeah, well, no, that movie actually was very good. It was a subject that a lot of people didn't talk about, and then I enjoyed that movie. I would check it out, folks. What's Eating Gilbert Grape? Check it out.
Okay, I do love Leonardo DiCaprio. He makes great movies, and so I'm sure this will be well acted.
We don't love him here.
I'm sure this. Yes, we do. I'm sure this will be well acted. I'm sure this will be a good movie. We'll see. It's still, from what I was reading, they're going to write the screenplay based off of a book that is still even yet to be released. So this movie could be a ways down the road before it actually gets made. But he's going to produce it. He's going to star in it. And apparently, this has been some long, love of his to play. Do you think it's because his name is Leonardo DiCaprio and it's Leonardo da Vinci?
Well, the issue with is Leonardo da Vinci has so many interpretations of what he was back then. And really what I'm afraid of, and this is something that every movie should every producer should look at, is give themselves a budget that's reasonable. Let's not spend $150 million and a quarter of it goes to Leonardo DiCaprio. Because that's what's going to end up happening. I guarantee that's what's going to happen.
Especially if he's producing it.
Yeah.
He's probably going to make double money.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, because if you spend that kind of money on a biopic, it's too much and it looks too clean. And especially Leonardo da Vinci, nothing was clean about that guy's life.
Well, my question is, and I'm not like the biggest history nerd, he invented a lot of stuff. Was there a lot of like major drama in his life? Like what's the story to be told there?
Well, the backdrop there, I believe, was the Catholic Church was growing in power. And I believe that's what, the Vatican and all that kind of stuff during that time, because, oh man, now you're putting me on the spot. Because I remember really the conflict was his beliefs conflicted with a lot of what the church wanted. So that was the main issue, because he was really pushing the boundaries with all of his, theories and concepts. But when you have some of those believers around you.
Some of those good old believers, right? Some of those.
I think that's the drama. I really think that's the drama, because it's just the way the world was changing at the time. I believe that was around the flat Earth kind of time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When a majority of the world believe in flat Earth, and
I would say yes, but I don't really know. No. I know that in 1492,
maybe we should get a historian on the show. No, really, because to me it's a great story. But what happens with these movies, I feel like these productions,
do you know historians? I don't know any historians.
Well, we can find one. It's not hard. There's a lot of colleges in this country.
That is a true statement.
And they're always yearning to be on podcasts.
Is that right?
But
nerdy historians.
But no, this is going to happen with kind of similar to Ray and other biopics, that it just feels too big.
Yeah.
Every time I watch it, I'm like, man, they're glorifying this way too much. this probably didn't really happen. And
I'm sure this is going to be a love letter to Leonardo da Vinci. And my question is this just straight up Oscar bait? Is this Leo? Yeah. Is this Leo just running another Oscar?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. When it comes to these movies, if I say let's go into the Richard Schischler production corner, if I own a production studio, you set a budget of like $30 million on this movie, and you make it work, because that's really what I think those kind of movies succeed at, is that it develops its own heart.
Yeah, but if you're gonna have Leo DiCaprio, it can't be a $30 million movie.
Well, then you scratch him and you get someone else to do it.
Well, then they don't get it made probably if you scratch Leo DiCaprio.
That's the sad part of the movie world, but. That's where those movies develop at its own heart, and that's why people really like those movies. But no, they're going to spend $100 million on it, and they're probably going to have someone flying it too.
You think dragons? You think Khaleesi will come into this one just because she's a big property right now? Okay, and then my last question.
Do you think Tom Hanks is going to be in it?
Probably. He's chasing him down still. He's like, I will find you. My last question: do you think, just Leonardo DiCaprio in general, do you think he will win another Oscar? Because it was the big news leading up to this last year's Academy Awards that he hasn't won.
I think everyone knows the Oscars are bought. So, I mean, it just depends on what happens that year with movies. I mean, the past 5 years in Oscars have been crap. So, I mean, compared to other possibilities. Then again, you have like the big directors who haven't really been competing seriously. Like Steven Spielberg hasn't made, a serious Oscar contender in quite some time. He's been having fun.
Yeah.
Like I saw the trailer for Ready Player One. It looks crappy.
Yeah.
But then again, I think it's ambitious. That's one thing I like about it. And
it's funny because it seems like nowadays there's the directors who are directing Oscar type movies, and then there's the other directors who are just, either doing movies that are going to make money or movies that seem fun, but it's like David O. Russell, like he's running after Oscars when he's directing.
But his movies aren't that expensive. And so I think that when they set the budget, Leonardo DiCaprio did really well when he shared the screen. I think he does well. Like Django, can't say it.
Come on.
Unchained.
Django.
He was really good in that movie, but he wasn't the main person. But he had some great scenes, and that showed him as an actor, which I like. Yeah. And then Inception, again, that showed if he was sharing the screen, he could be really good. But when he does, remember that movie? Did you ever go see that movie, J. Edgar?
I did, yeah.
You did? How was that? Was that really good?
Man, that was
that a really
thrill.
good movie?
That was a thrill a minute.
Yeah?
No, that was super boring. And it got weird and kind of like homosexual tones, which I didn't know about. And the whole thing, him and Armie Hammer, I don't know.
I mean, how about Shutter Island?
That was what we were joking earlier about psychological thrillers. I mean, that's kind of what that was. It was okay.
And what about Revolutionary Road? Did you ever see that movie?
Gosh, not good. Yeah, not my favorite.
So, I mean, and that's one thing, when you look at an actor and you're trying to talk Oscars to me, Daniel Day-Lewis is the only actor I can think on top of my head who delivers something every time. And someone comes out respecting him as an actor, even though he's kind of crazy. But if you look at his movie choices, he makes really solid movie choices for an actor.
But that's kind of unfair because Leo's in way more movies than Daniel Day-Lewis is.
Leonardo
is like he stays.
We're talking about Oscars here.
That's true.
If he's going to win another Oscar, it's all about his choice and what he wants to do. Where does Leonardo DiCaprio find his success? Same thing with Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp needs to go back to find his success because him as a standalone actor, his movies have tanked. But when he does it together in an ensemble cast, very successful. I'm talking over the top successful. So I don't know. Maybe that's where their strong points. Maybe he needs to go for a supporting role. That's his next actor.
So do you not think he
gets Oscar, right?
Do you not think he was deserving in The Revenant to win? Did you see The Revenant?
No, I had no desire to see that movie.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. You have no idea then. You don't know how high he can fly.
I think he can fly really high. I mean, think about the movies he's been in when there's an ensemble cast. You have Gangs of New York.
Yeah.
And then you have Titanic. And then you have The Departed. And then you have Inception. I mean, those kind of movies. The only one movie that he did really well in by himself, I would say, is The Aviator.
That was a good one.
That was really the only lead actor role he did well. And that movie wasn't even that great.
But in a lot of those ensemble casts, he is the lead actor. I mean, he is the primary actor in several of those.
Well, not Gangs of New York.
Not Gangs of New York, but he is. Well, he probably is the lead actor in Gangs of New York. You're gonna say Daniel Day-Lewis is?
Well, I mean,
I guarantee that Leo's in. He is the through line.
You know what? I had a discussion with before we wrap this up. I had a discussion what makes a lead actor and then what makes a supporting actor. Is the argument is if you can take that character and take them out of the storyline, will it continue?
And you think Gangs of New York would continue without Leo?
No, I don't think it would, but I don't think it would continue without the Butcher either.
Well, maybe not.
So
they're both lead actors?
They're both lead. So that's kind of hard to share the screen with Daniel Day-Lewis.
Well,
Now, with The Departed, same story, but you can also say that about a bunch of the other actors. Because that's why that movie's loved by everybody, because it's so well written. Yeah. And
The Departed is one of the more ensemble casts that he was a part of. And that movie was on TV yesterday. That's
Wolf of Wall Street. I mean, he did. I hated that movie though, so that was kind of hard. I mean, it was too into itself.
It was a little into itself. I did not love The Wolf of Wall Street like a lot of people did.
Well, it's almost like Scorsese watched a bunch of Guy Ritchie movies, and then he tried to combine it with Guy Ritchie, and then just gratuitous of everything.
I think he watched a bunch of Scorsese movies and tried to make another one of those. All right, we got to go to break. When we're back, we are going to rewind some of the movies that we have seen in the last week here on the Ticket Stub.
Don't forget to download the Lone Star Community Radio app for your Google Play or Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM. That is Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1.
Hispanic Chamber Connections with Dr. Carlos Sanchez, president of the Woodlands Conroe Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, featuring event announcements, member highlights, and more. Tuesdays at 1 p.m., broadcasting from the heart of Conroe, Texas on irlonestar.com and Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1.
Shall we begin?
Back on the Ticket Stub, Connor and Dick here. Make sure you are liking our podcast, subscribing so you can be up to date with everything we're doing here at the Ticket Stub. Make sure you find us on Facebook, the Ticket Stub Podcast, and like our Twitter at @the_Ticket Stub. Tune in every week. We are giving away 2 free tickets to the Grand. We will announce how
Conroe.
The Grand in Conroe. Yeah, that's great. That's right. Good to say that. And we will announce how you can win those at the end of the episode, as well as announce our winner from last week. Dick, watched a couple movies. It's a short week, but I was still able to get a couple movies in. How about you?
Yeah, same here.
Good. All right. You want to go first?
Well, I'm over Game of Thrones finally, and
You're detoxing.
it's very true. And when you scrunch all that into 1 week, basically a little less than 1 week, I didn't want to watch any more fantasy films, and I watched War Dogs.
War Dogs.
Now, it's 2016. The movie was directed by Todd Phillips, and it had Miles Teller and, of course, Jonah Hill. I laughed after I watched this movie. I read that Jonah Hill gained weight for the role.
He looked terrible.
And I love to talk about this movie because how stupid it was. So my biggest gripe of the whole movie, because it all seemed very unbelievable to me, but the most unbelievable part to me was the relationship between the main character, Miles Teller, which is his name's David, and his girlfriend at the time, who was played by Ana de Armas, a Cuban actress.
Wasn't she just like super cool with everything the whole time?
Well, see, that's what really bugged me. So in this movie, basically, guys, it's a show. It shows David's character in the dump, and he has this beautiful girlfriend somehow still, and he gives massages, and then there's a scene where it's actually kind of funny. He gets a proposition of doing a happy ending for a dude in Hollywood. They're in Hollywood, and he tries to be a salesman, so he buys all these bed sheets, and tries to sell them to old folks' homes. And then he meets his cousin at a funeral, who played by Jonah Hill, who has a hilarious laugh in it.
Yeah, his laugh is
to
the
me.
best part.
Jonah Hill was very good. I really enjoyed his character. It was a little too much gunslinging in a sense. Like he just had that no care attitude, was Mr. Hardcore, and made it work. And basically, they stumble into the arms deal relationship with the United States, and what's going on over in the Middle East. And they kind of give a little background how they're able to sell guns legally and then illegally.
And I think it's important to note that this is based on a true story.
Based on, so the interest that was the interesting concept. Anything that was filmed over in Afghanistan, that was a cool part of the movie. I really enjoyed those interactions, and they kind of showed you what they did to get the deal done. But then what's crazy to me, and bringing it back to the girlfriend scenario, say you're a girlfriend or a boyfriend or your significant other is down and out poor. He's he's a masseuse, she's a masseuse, whatever they kind of see as a failure. And then all of a sudden, they can afford an apartment that is 3 times the size of your old apartment, the jump. And then he's driving a Porsche all of a sudden. How would you not be questioning what's going on? And that was kind of the problem in the relationship, which is like, you don't tell me what's going on. I'm like, all right, if someone's not telling you what's going on and they're spending that kind of money, it's never good. I mean, like, there's a reason why he's lying to you.
Yeah, you probably don't jump straight to like gun sales in Afghanistan, but you maybe think like drugs or something's going on here, robbing. Like, how are you getting this kind of cash?
I feel bad for whoever wrote this for this girl, because if I was this lady, the actress, I'd be like, why am I doing this? Why would anyone stay with this person unless she's superficial and she's okay with making all this money? Because all her lines always consisted of, what's going on? I don't understand what you're doing. And she keeps asking this question throughout the whole movie. And I'm like, come on, this is one of those things that the women don't get strong roles because they don't write a role that gives a strong woman. Because any person in the right mind at the time, when someone's driving a Porsche one day and then like 2 weeks earlier was giving out happy endings to make ends meet, something's going on.
Yeah, there's a thing in film called the Bechdel test. I don't know if I've ever talked about it on here, but it's not film. It's all fiction, where it's basically asking the question: do two women ever talk to each other about something other than a man? And it's trying to talk about like how strong the female characters are in a story. This would fail like with flying colors, because the women only are talking to a man, only talking about a man. The only reason that this girl is in this movie is to offer some contrast with Miles Teller, to have something
give him
pulling
some
him
morality.
Away.
Because she gets pregnant, and he constantly questions why he's doing this, but he's doing it for her and the baby, but he can't tell her. I mean, I think every man or woman who wants to be part of the relationship has that struggle if they don't feel like they're meeting that, that in the middle kind of concept.
And I know this is like his movie about him, but yeah, her character was the total throwaway.
It was, and that really bugged me throughout the whole movie. So overall, this movie sucked. But
what I would say, I was ready to love this movie when I saw, like, I like Todd Phillips. I like Miles Teller a whole lot. I thought it was going to be great. Turned out it had some good action parts in it. It had some funny parts. Jonah Hill was definitely the comic relief. It didn't live up to the hype. I wouldn't say sucked, but definitely left something to be desired for me as well.
Yeah. And it's funny because Todd Phillips came from a producer role. So you can't really say there's a lot of high expectation from the guy. But he produced some of the best comedy movies ever. Old School, The Hangover, and stuff like that. But it's kind of funny that he tried to get into this game with what was it? I even forgot the name. I want to say War Pigs, but that's probably wrong.
The movie that you're talking about right now, War Pigs. You think it's called War Pigs? War Dogs?
War Dogs.
Oh my goodness. But Todd Phillips, anyways, I think he directed some of those other movies, didn't he? Didn't he direct The Hangover and all that kind of stuff?
Okay. I mean, his main role in the Hollywood world is producer.
Yeah. All right. That's War Dogs. Is it available streaming anywhere? How did you watch it?
I watched it on HBO Go.
Okay.
I've been really hitting that up because HBO has a good selection monthly. And I also watched The Accountant 2 with Ben Affleck. And again, that was just really kind of a poorly written movie. I think it's one of those fodder movies that people need to watch until the next bigger movie comes out.
The Accountant was weird because they used like his Asperger's as like a superhero power, right? Like, or was it Asperger's or autism or whatever? But somehow that gave him like the hyper focus he needed to be like the best shot in the world. It's just, to me, that was like one of the first times where they'd used like a modern, like kind of a really, what's out in the social, or what's out there a lot with people is this idea of autism, Asperger's. And like, it's the first movie I've seen where that was turned into like a characteristic of a main character in a way that wasn't a debility. It didn't hold him back. In fact, it kind of allowed him to do what he was able to do. It took him to that next level. But yeah, The Accountant, I watched that one on an airplane, and that
was is it just Jason Bourne with autism?
Kinda, yeah, like a more socially awkward, like more, I don't know. And Ben Affleck, I'm kind of over Ben Affleck if I'm being honest.
Oh yeah, when they announced him as Batman, I was very excited because I knew it was going to be crappy.
All right, well, I've got two movies I want to talk about that I liked both of. All right, because I enjoy movies. I liked both of these movies. The first one is on Netflix. It's called My Scientology Movie. Have you seen this or heard about it or anything? Netflix has been promoting it pretty hard. It's on one of those like trendings and what you should watch kind of a deal. That's how I saw about it. And I heard a guy on another movie podcast talking about it. Thought I'd check it out. It's from 2015. It is streaming on Netflix, directed by a guy named John Dower, starring a guy named Louis Theroux. And he's a British documentarian. I think in Britain, he's a pretty well-known guy. I didn't really know anything about him until this. But basically, it's looking at the world of Scientology, the abuses of Scientology. It interviews a lot of people who have defected from Scientology. And it has an interesting slant to it because it's all through the lens of Louis Theroux, who is casting actors to reenact scenes that have happened between Scientologists. So, David Miscavige is like the head of Scientology. So they hire an actor to play him. They hire an actor to play Tom Cruise. They hire an actor to play a lot of these other people. And you think that they're building to this great big scene. And there is a couple scenes, but it's really totally just like a bone structure to tell a lot of these other smaller stories and to interview a lot of these people. It's really interesting. I liked it quite a bit. I've seen several, Scientology documentaries are kind of in vogue right now. There's, Leah Remini, who's the King of Queens girl. She's got some show, I think, or a movie. There's several, Going Clear was big on HBO a couple years ago. There's several Scientology movies, documentaries. I think for a long time, people were afraid to talk about it because the Scientology church was like threatening to ruin your life. And now people are like, you know what, we're going to tell the story. But what I really liked about this was Louis. Like, he was great.
Is this your first time seeing one of his documentaries?
Do you know him?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's been around for a long time.
Well, I'm ignorant of him.
He worked for BBC for a while, and he does really good work on his documentaries. And he's one of those guys who he himself makes the documentary when I see it, because he's the one that you can tell is in charge of what's going on, what they're trying to say with each documentary.
Yeah, funny you say that, because it says directed by John Dower, which I was surprised. I thought it would be directed by Louis Theroux, because a lot of times he's holding handheld cameras. I mean, he is very much directing the action of the plot. Now, whether he was maybe not behind the camera as much as some of the other guys were, or maybe he's trying to give this other guy who helped him, collaborated with him, he just gave him directorial credit, to help his career out. I don't know how all that happened, but I was surprised that he wasn't the director, because he definitely was in the driver's seat of what was happening here. And what I loved was he's so bold. Like, he would walk up. So, they would be filming stuff, and then the Scientology people would be filming them, because the Scientology people are saying, oh yeah, we're making our own documentary about you, trying to like counteract, I guess, or scare him off. And so he would just walk straight up to these people, and the cops got involved several times, because the Scientology people would call the cops on him, and they would put up these signs that would say like no trespassing in areas that were not their property, and he would just walk onto the areas and stuff. He had no fear, absolutely no fear. At one point, he had the actor that was playing David Miscavige, who was just this like, 25-year-old kid. He was walking alongside him, and you could tell the kid was like totally freaked out. And Louis has like, I guess if he's been doing it for his whole career, he's probably been in all these situations.
Well, he
before.
does. Like, there were a couple of themes he did. I know he did stuff on neo-Nazis, and then when some KKK people, and it's just really funny, the stuff he does. Like, he did one that was really interesting. It's about the porn industry. And he went into like the life of like each star, and then he did
Was
a
that your favorite
follow-up.
one that he did?
Well, no, yeah, definitely. But I don't think they even showed nudity, so watch out there, folks. You're not a fan of that. But it was interesting because he does follow-ups with people, because he used to have a series, and then he would do follow-ups of different themes he did with the people like from the KKK or from the neo-Nazis and stuff like that. And it's just it's fun to see that kind of documentary style, because in certain documentaries, every time I watch it, you either get like an agenda piece, or you get something that's very insightful, and you're wondering what's going to happen and down the road, because usually they leave a lot of open questions in documentaries. But this, like, he's really good. I like him.
Yeah, it was really well made. The other thing I'll say is that Marty Rathbun was like the main defector that he was dealing with and talking to. But this guy, he was like a way high up. Like, he was one of the top in command guys. And then you find out over time that he's kind of like one of the enforcers of a lot of the like penalties and stuff like that. And you don't know if you should feel bad for him, because it's obvious he's got a lot going on inside, or if you shouldn't really like him. And as they interview, you feel bad for a lot of the people involved. One guy's explaining how hard it is to defect from Scientology, because if you leave, you don't know how to get a job. You don't have any friends. You don't have any family. You don't have anywhere to go. You don't have a car. You don't have. Well, it just takes over your life.
I know a lot of the core of Scientology depends on you ratting people out. So I imagine if you're involved with it, you're going to have they have some dirt on you, because
for sure,
they get people ratting you out all the time.
Yeah, it's all about interviewing or doing these little like sessions, and they find out all your details. But
check it out. It's on Netflix.
Yeah,
it's cool. Netflix. I just added it, so I'm going to check it out.
My Scientology movie. The other one, and this was, it's a short week, and I would love to see something a little newer, but I just had to get something watched for the show. 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi. I watched that. It's streaming on Amazon Prime, Amazon Video. It's from 2016, rated R, directed by the one and only Michael Bay. Have you ever heard of him? Ever heard of Michael Bay? You know him? He's a little director, kind of new. Starring John Krasinski. He's reunited with Roy from The Office, David Denman. They come together as friends in this movie. It was kind of nice to see those two guys not battling over Pam, but fighting together for America. Basically, it's a real-life telling of a story, or it's a dramatized telling of the story of the attack on the U.S. compound in Libya. And there's these these contract security guys who work together to try to make sense out of the chaotic situation they find themselves in. And basically, it's hard for me to divorce this movie from the politics of what happened and kind of remembering that story. But I will say that just as far as a movie goes, this is Michael Bay at his best, in my opinion, which maybe isn't saying a lot for some people. But for me, this is Michael Bay at his best. It had all the action, it had the explosions, it had, it was really gripping and tense, but it also had some quiet moments where you got to know the characters a little bit. And the character development wasn't amazing. I don't think we would ever expect Michael Bay to have amazing character development, but you do care for these guys. You know, you especially a couple of them you know better than others, and you really come to like them. You really come to see their like friendship, their connection, the way they're working together. And as the tension builds over time, it still allows there to be some quiet moments in between the fighting where there gets to be a little bit of emotion, a little bit of interaction. And so I think that Michael Bay doesn't get much credit for that, but this is him doing it really well. If you haven't seen 13 Hours, great action movie in my opinion. I really liked it a lot, and it's streaming on Amazon.
All right.
You see this one?
No, I'm going to check it out.
All right.
So we got to be wrapping it up here, but before we go, let's let folks know what we're going to be seeing next week. On my movie queue, I'm going to see a movie called Inner Space.
Now, what is that?
From 1987, produced by Steven Spielberg. It has, look at this lineup: Dennis Quaid, Martin Short, Meg Ryan, right? We have those folks. Those are the main actors.
What if this movie was made today? Like, what if this is a 2017 movie with all those actors?
A hapless store clerk must foil criminals to save the life of a man who, miniaturized in a secret experiment, was accidentally injected into him. Inner Space, directed by Joe Dante, and Joe Dante did other great movies like Gremlins. He also did Small Soldiers and stuff like that. So I've seen this movie a long time ago. I'm going to watch it again. It's on Netflix. What are you going to watch?
I'm going to try and get to the theater and see Logan Lucky. That's coming out this weekend. I'm excited about that. So I'll report back next week with Logan Lucky on the Ticket Stub.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Our talk shows and music shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? Lone Star Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out irlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776 with your question. Get seen on TV or YouTube and heard on our podcast, FM, and internet radio. Sponsor your local radio station with Lone Star Community Radio.
This is Rick, TRC. Every Monday through Friday from 3 to 7, I play today's country hits on my show, Afternoons with Lone Star. The type of music that makes you want to get off your seat, stomp your feet, sing along at the top of your lungs, and not care who hears. On Lone Star Community Radio, Conroe's FM 104.5 and 106.1, and as always on worldwide, irlonestar.com.
Shall we begin?
Back again on the Ticket Stub. We just did our rewind for the movies that we've seen the last week. We talked about some of the movies we're going to watch before next week. We've talked Leo Dicaprio. So what's left to talk about, Dick?
Well, our theme today is going to be scary movies.
Yeah, so Annabelle is in theaters right now.
Yeah.
It had a huge, well, I say huge, considering that all these little scary movies have these shoestring budgets. And it seems like, we were talking about this earlier. They always make pretty good money. That's probably why they keep making them.
I would actually love to talk to Nick or somebody like that who we've had on the show who've been in the production side, is how easy is it really to make these scary movies? Because some of these scary movies have gotten some big actors in it. I know, Naomi Watts was in The Ring, and The Ring wasn't like I guess budgeted.
Yeah, I think a lot of them have like one set or one location. It's like they get to the cabin and they stay there the whole time, or they get to the grandma's house and they're there the whole time. So that probably cuts down. Usually not lots of big explosions. Usually the suspense is like, it's almost like
everything's done in post.
And terrible camera work is like adds the suspense, so you can have like a crappy camcorder and be shaking it the whole time. You don't have to pay the $100,000 for like the Steadicams rig or anything like that. Like they don't want.
You mean you're not going to do the 77 millimeter IMAX cameras on set?
Yeah, well, I think that they're going to do that for the dramatic retelling of Dunkirk, the scary version.
And that's why I wish, if money wasn't a factor in people's lives, we should get Christopher Nolan to make a scary movie. Because it'd be interesting to have these directors who are known for their methods or whatnot, and have them do a scary movie. What's their take on scary movies? Because everybody, I feel like, who's in the film business works on a scary movie one way or another, just because it's part of the process. Every year, there's always going to be a scary movie every month being released, being it arguably a psychological thriller or actual full bona fide horror film. But
yeah, and by the way, you brought Nick up a minute ago. That movie Devil's Candy is on Netflix now, so I need to check that one out. The one he talked about.
No way.
Yes, it was a couple months ago now when we had Nick on. He talked about Devil's Candy. I've been told from some listeners that is available streaming on Netflix now. So, Dick, let's let the premise here. What makes a scary movie? Because that's something we were talking about. Before we get too far, we've got Engineer Austin who's going to hop in this segment. He's scary movie. He's kind of our aficionado here. So Austin, we'll just throw it to you. What defines a scary movie versus a thriller versus a psychological thriller versus a meta thriller? I don't know. I'm just making stuff up now.
Well, a scary movie covers a broad range of movies. There's a lot that can make a person scared. There's jump scares, which are, cheap 5-second adrenaline rush. And then there's, psychological thrillers that'll mess with your mind.
What's in the box? What's in the box?
Yeah. So I feel like that movie's not even, I don't know. That seems like more drama almost.
That's a psychological thriller to me. Because, I mean, dude, you had the Thin Man.
Yeah.
You had the Grotesque Man. I mean, that kind of messed with people.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, and so, a lot of those movies, like, have you seen that movie Fracture with Anthony Hopkins? I feel like that's kind of an under-the-radar psychological thriller. It's got Ryan Gosling and Anthony Hopkins.
Well, like that Robin Williams movie, Photo, whatever.
Oh, 1 hour photo.
That was
creepy. That was
Insomnia.
Super creepy. So
another Christopher Nolan movie.
There's the jump scares. There's kind of
Did you know that?
the slow burn psychological movies. And then what would Halloween? Just Halloween is kind of a pillar of scary movies. What would that be? Would that be just a psychological one? Because that kind of sticks with you.
Well, yeah. Halloween invented the jump scare, really, like the good jump scare, because there was a scene at the very beginning where the doctor's in the bushes, and then the policeman comes up and grabs him by the shoulder.
Okay, so it's got kind of both. It kind of pulls in elements of both ones. Or no?
I mean, it pulls in both, definitely.
It's hard because, to me, horror films have to have, it's almost like they have to have a supernatural background to
Nowadays, they do a lot, it seems like.
But, the thrillers really involve the chase. That's what really makes a thriller. So, it's, when you're doing movies like that, Halloween's one of those things that it went supernatural. If I believe the character, the main guy in Halloween went...
I think in Halloween 3 it did.
It went supernatural, right? Because in the first one, Michael, his name is Michael, correct? He was just a guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
The mask. And just Jamie Lee Curtis was really good in that movie, by the way.
Yeah.
But that's when, I think that's what really makes a horror film. Because he's like Saw and Hostel and those new generations that came out 10 years ago or so. That, to me, that's not horror. That's just more of...
Yeah, they have that torture porn category is what they call it, where it's just like, you just see people like actually sawing your limb. Like, it's just gross and bloody and nasty, and it's like, ugh. And I guess that is now a version of horror as well.
Well, the first Saw that was directed by James Wan did not focus on the gore aspect of things. That was only hyped up in the sequels that James Wan had no part in.
Well, yeah, because the first one really brought the concept of choice A or B.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the psychological part of it, which was cool. But then, like the Human Centipede, what would you classify that
Have you
as?
seen those?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, I've actually seen all three of the Centipede. Yeah.
I watched all three in one night.
Because the second one to me was more creepier than the first.
Right.
The second was the most creepy. That's the worst movie I've ever seen. Like the creepiest.
It was creepy.
It's banned in several countries.
And
the third one's stupid. The first one is interesting, but bad. The second one, like, I still am like, I don't like it.
Yeah,
I don't like it at all.
It's unsettling.
Yeah,
but
don't see the second Human Centipede. Oh God.
See the first one and third one. Of course,
yeah, the first and third ones are great. No, they're so.
No, okay,
weird.
so we're gonna classify like horror. Would you? I mean, because I would love to listen, hear from our listeners about this. So horror to me has supernatural elements to it. Psychological thriller is more focused on the jump scare or the chase because you're trying to solve the mystery or trying to do stuff like that. Because like Poltergeist, that's a scary movie. That's a horror film to me. Now, like movies like Aliens, is that a horror film?
You know, a lot of these lists have it on there, but I would think that's more like a suspense action movie. You know, or
that's scary, man. Like the Aliens 3 is really scary, like jump scare wise,
right?
Because there's just one alien in that one, and it's just basically it's all jump scare. The whole movie is that one big jump scare, and the first one's just creepy, and it's great.
Well, have you seen the game Alien Isolation?
I've heard of it. Yes, it's all jump scare, right?
Scary. Well, no, because it has like one of the most advanced AI a game has ever had. And, you know, it's just stalking you around. And
that's creepy. So that's one thing. I played some scary video games, like Outlast. That game, that'll make you pee your pants. But oh yeah, it's great.
All right, we're gonna have to run through these because we don't have a lot of time.
So top 3 scary movies.
Yeah, we each hopefully have a list, or at least Dick and I, Austin, you can hop in if you've got 3 or just a couple. Top 3 scary movies. Let's go 3-1 here on what we like our third favorite down to our first favorite. Dick, what's your third?
Well, I have to give my background real quick. Give me 2 minutes. See,
Okay.
I hate scary movies. I have a horrible fear. When I was younger, when I was about 5 years old, my brothers made me watch It. And after I watched It, they thought it'd be really funny to lock me in a footlocker. And then, because I was scared of the dark when I was younger. And so they figured that would get me over the fear of putting a clown in my head. And yeah, I'm like taking a shower. I did not take a shower for like a week. I mean, the drain, anything with a drain freaked me out. But basically, ever since then, I have this horrible thing. Like when I go to sleep after I see a scary movie, I relive it and I'm in the movie.
Oh man,
and it's horrible. I really hate it.
Do you have like night terrors?
And that's how I gauge how good a scary movie is. Oh, night terrors all the time for like a week after I see a scary movie, and that's how I tell if it's good or not. Because if it's like a night, average. But if it's like a week, I knew it's a good scary movie.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. Sorry about that, man. You want to talk a little more about it?
No, I'm done. I just want to let people know because my choices. It's about my choice. I want kind of explains my choices.
How did that make you feel?
So
we'll do a little therapy session here.
No, I hate scary movies. And unfortunately, my girlfriend loves them, so I have to watch them.
Oh, great.
So.
All right, well, third, Dick, what's your third favorite scary movie?
My third favorite scary movie I'm going to have to say is going to be It, the TV miniseries. I know it's not a movie, but...
So your first choice is not a movie. Okay,
well, of course. Well, we already broke the rules with Game of Thrones last episode, so we can do whatever I want. The It thing, Stephen King movie, I really encourage the new one's coming out, I believe in September. It's got a lot of hype on it, and the supernatural aspect to me qualifies as a horror film. And then the movie itself, the older version, was just really good. It had really classic actors in it, really classic scenes. I liked it, but then I hated it because it was what brought me into the horror world. And I still, to this day, if I watch it, drains really freak me out still.
Yeah, scary movies are definitely a blind spot for me. I've never seen It. You said it was Stephen King. If it's anything like The Dark Tower, then I'm sure it's
he wrote it.
I'm sure it's a classic.
He wrote it. So.
But I have not seen It. My third, we've talked already about it quite a bit, so I'm not going to say much else. Halloween. I remember watching it as a kid. Remember the scene, spoiler, if you haven't seen 1978 Halloween yet, then skip ahead 15 seconds. But at the very end when she shoots him and then he's there and then she looks away and he's gone at the end of Halloween, the first one. Whew, I still remember that as being like, oh no, where, it's relentless, suspenseful.
That's good.
Yeah, that is, I don't like scary movies, but I do really like Halloween. So it's my third favorite. Austin, what you got?
Well, my third favorite is going to be one that I've recently seen, and it probably bumped off Friday the 13th Part 3 off for me, is The Conjuring. I really liked The Conjuring more than I thought I would. I didn't watch it for a long time because I didn't know what I would think of it. But I really like The Conjuring series because they throw a lot of stereotypes all into one house. You have the haunted house, you have demons, and then you have the possessed doll, Annabelle. You have just everything thrown together into one movie, and I think that's really cool.
Cool. All right, Dick, number 2, what you got?
Number 2 would probably be The Strangers from 2008. That movie I love, and this kind of goes in the concept of horror films and things like that. They always take the liberty of based off a true story. It's almost like every story has that, and it's nowhere near close. Basically, if you haven't seen The Strangers, basically what it's about is two husband and wife, I believe husband and wife, Scott Speedman and Liv Tyler are staying at a friend's house, I think it is, or they're on vacation or something. It's not their house. And these strangers who wear masks stalk them in the house. They mess with them, and then finally, towards the climax, they attack them. And what's funny is I was like, man, based off a true story, this sounds crazy. So I went online, started reading more about it. All it turned out to be was, I believe the writer or the director read a story about a stalker ring the doorbell, and they didn't recognize, and they wore a mask, but nothing happened from it. Yeah, and he spawned the idea of them attacking and killing, because I think they're making a sequel to this. Or a prequel, whatever, because the thing that made it scary to me was it seemed realistic because of, just basically people trying to murder people and mess with their heads. And that's what I got from the movies. That's all they were doing, is trying to mess with the people and kill them. And when you're out and alone in the woods in the house, don't think of the stranger.
Yeah, this goes back to based on a true story being very loose.
Yeah.
Very loosely used. I have not seen this movie. I'm looking at the photos right now. Their masks look terrifying.
Well, what's funny is it's not even the mask. It's more of just the whole concept of being alone in a house, and they're in the woods. So you see little subtle movements in the house and all this kind of stuff, and it seems so realistic. If somebody was determined, a group of people were determined to kill you, but also mess with you at the same time, that's what they do.
This sounds. This isn't one of my ones, but I do. This sounds kind of like that movie No Vacancy or Vacancy, whatever it was, where the couple gets trapped in the hotel room and they're being. It's got Luke Wilson. And anyways, my number 2, Get Out, 2017, directed by Jordan Peele. This is the story of a black character who's dating a white girl, goes to meet her super rich white family up in the Northeast, and he's there and things seem weird, and he starts to realize things are super weird, and it just takes off from there. It's Jordan Peele, who's part of Key and Peele. This is kind of his first step. I saw an interview with him a couple years ago about how much he loves horror and he wanted to start directing horror, and this was really his first step into that world. I expect that we'll see quite a bit more horror to come from Jordan Peele, especially because Get Out was such a huge hit. It was very successful. A lot of people really liked it. So Get Out was a great one. Again, that's probably more of a suspense, psychological suspense kind of a movie than there wasn't a whole lot of jump scares, although there was a few, if I remember right, in Get Out. But definitely a good one. If you have a chance to watch it, I'd say do it.
All right.
My number 2, I totally forgot about Get Out whenever I was planning for this, but the one I'm going with is one that you can watch right now on Netflix. It is called Hush. Have either of you heard of it?
No, I have not.
No. Okay, so the main character in the story, she's deaf. So there are a bunch of moments where it's very tense. You can't hear anything. She's just looking around. It's an intense movie. It's very great.
That sounds terrifying.
All right, so we're not going to take our break. We're going to go straight into our number 1s. We're not going to take it just due to time constraints and try to get everything out. My number 1 movie is The Sixth Sense. I really like that movie. To me, watching it for the first time, it's one of those great movies for the first time viewing only, that it really messes with you. It's really cool. Bruce Willis does a very good job. So does the kid, Haley Joel Osment, my favorite actor in my theme game. He needs to be in every movie possible.
Haley Joel Osment.
Yeah, teen. No, that's preteen. Preteen Haley. But no, that movie to me had all the great things. It wasn't too scary, but it was scary enough to where you're questioning what's happening, the supernatural aspect of it. Also, the storyline, you were wondering what was happening in this movie, and especially the concept of the movie. It gets freaky. So that's my number 1.
It'd be a great movie is just remake scene for scene The Sixth Sense, but with Haley Joel Osment now. As he is today, fat, bearded, long-haired Haley Joel Osment. Just cut it exactly scene for scene, have him act it as seriously as he can. I would pay $10 to go see that again, probably. All right, my number 1. This may not actually be a good movie. I don't remember, but when I saw it, it was the scariest thing I'd ever seen, and that was The Descent, a 2005 movie. It's this group of people that are on a caving expedition, and the deeper they go into the cave, and things start to happen, and they end up kind of stuck and stranded and lost in the cave, and then all of a sudden, a strange breed of predator is what the IMDb page says, starts to stalk them, pursue them, chase them. It was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. And again, I don't love scary movies as a general rule, but this one stuck with me to the point where when I was making this top 3 list, it instantly came to my mind as a movie. I need to revisit it because I saw it about when it came out.
Is it because you're claustrophobic?
Not really, because I've done some cave kind of stuff, that never scares me. I kind of like it. I think it's cool. But man, something about this movie stuck with me. The Descent. Check it out if you have the chance.
My number 1 is going to have to be all the way from little 5th grade me, is the very first Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The first time I watched it, I could not sleep so much to the point that where I threw it up.
You threw it up?
I threw it up.
Threw up the deuce, man. Threw it up.
No, did you see the remake?
I did not see the remake.
Yeah, I'm interested in hearing more about that. I might check that out. But yeah, scary movies suck. I hate it. Horrible topic.
This is PTSD.
Let's move
revisiting it. Well, hey, if you have a top 3 list you want to let us know, you can tweet at us at @the_ticket stub, or let us know on Facebook, the Ticket Stub Podcast.
Speaking of that, we need to talk about the ticket winner.
We do.
So who won this week's ticket?
So the winner, we asked for you guys to tell us how much you thought the Glass Castle was going to make by posting on our Facebook. And the winner with a guess. So the glass. Hold on. Let me pull up. Hold on, Dick. I didn't know we were hopping right into this.
We only have a couple minutes. That's the problem.
Oh man, I just didn't want it to end. So the Glass Castle this weekend made $4.875 million. Huge success. Big smashing hit. Wes Smith guessed $4.1 million, making him the closest and the winner. That's actually a pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I don't know if he
Way to
had
go.
some insider info or anything like that. But Wes, we'll make sure we get you those tickets. Good job,
I bet
buddy.
he restrained from going to see it because he knew if he went to go see it, it'd put him over.
Yeah, he didn't want to add any more money to the box office, so he didn't go see it. For next week, here's what we're going to do on the Facebook page, and I'll post this question so that you guys can respond there. Which of the movies that we've talked about on this episode was made for a budget of $300,000 at the time of release and grossed $47 million? So of all the movies we've talked about today, which of them was made for a budget of $300,000 and grossed $47 million in the box office? So you have this whole week to answer that question, and post it on our Facebook page where we prompt the question. And the first
or
one,
email us if you don't have Facebook.
Or email us
ticketstubpodcast@gmail.com.
The ticketstubpodcast@gmail.com. That's right. Or you can find us on Twitter and let us know there as well. Looking ahead, we've got more tickets to give away. Remember, guys, at the end of the month, we're doing the Gods of Egypt. That's how we're going to give the tickets away. We're going to review the Gods of Egypt, and you guys are going to write a review on our Facebook or send us one via email. And the best one, the one we like the most, will win the tickets for that week. That's our bad movie of the month. Also, Summer Blockbuster is done. Guardians won, Girls Trip won. We're going to stop talking about it. But we've got more great stuff to come next week. Be sure to find us, subscribe, tell your friends, guys. We want this thing to grow. We want the conversation to continue to get better, continue to grow. So tell everybody you know about the Ticket Stub podcast. And we'll look forward to hearing from you guys again next
let's
week.
wrap it up, Austin. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. And hopefully we'll never talk about scary movies again. I'll check you later next Thursday at noon o'clock. The Ticket Stub podcast. This is Dick.
This is Connor.
And we'll catch you later.
Thanks for listening to The Ticket Stub. Be sure to check us out on Facebook at The Ticket Stub Podcast, our YouTube channel, The Ticket Stub, or send us listener email to theticketstubpodcast@gmail.com. We also have all of our podcasts available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. If you're in the Conroe area, be sure to tune in live every Thursday at 104.5 and 106.1 FM to hear it as it happens and interact live with the show. See you next time.
Thanks for checking out this podcast of Lone Star Community Radio, Montgomery County's community radio station. If you enjoyed this recording, make sure to check out our past shows online at irlonestar.com or their respective video or podcast formats on YouTube, Google Play, or iTunes. If you have any questions regarding the show, either it being about sponsorships or questions for the host, contact the station manager at dick@irlonestar.com or call the station at 936-647-3776. This show was recorded in downtown Conroe, Texas at the Lone Star Community Radio Studios, and Lone Star Community Radio reserves all rights to this recording and images.